How would the US leverage air and sea power to strike Iran? We break the strategy down starting with day 0. It begins in the dark skies above, where aerial refueling tankers, the backbone of the operation, take up their positions. Then comes H hour. The silence is broken as Navy destroyers unleash a barrage from their vertical launch systems. The primary goal, to blind the enemy's radar and dismantle their anti-air defenses. But how is this achieved? The answer lies in the destroyer's cruise missiles. Once fired, these missiles hug the terrain, flying so low that they remain virtually invisible to enemy radar. Following this opening salvo come the heavy hitters. The F-15E Eagles acting as the bomb trucks of the operation, working in tandem with the B-2 Spirit, the stealth bomber known as the tip of the spear of the U.S. Air Force. What does a U.S. military Day Zero strike actually look like? We talk about U.S. air power constantly, but the coordination required to dismantle a modern military is almost impossible to visualize. This is how a coordinated U.S. air and naval strike on Iranian strategic targets would likely unfold, utilizing the full might of the F-15E Strike Eagles, aerial tankers, B-2 Spirits, destroyers, and carrier strike groups. Well, it begins with fuel. In the dark hours of the early morning, roughly 12 hours before the first shot is fired and well outside enemy radar coverage, a massive air bridge is constructed. From Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and remote airfields in Diego Garcia, a fleet of KC-135 Stratotankers and the newer KC-46 Pegasus tankers launch in waves. They climb to 30,000 feet, establishing specific orbit tracks over the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. These flying gas stations are the lifeline of the entire war. They allow the tactical jets to trade fuel weight for weapon weight, launching with heavy munition loads knowing the tankers are waiting for them. Then comes H hour, kicking down the door. The attack begins not with manned aircraft, but with robotic precision from the sea. The goal is simple: blind the enemy's eyes, their radars, and silence their voice, their command and control. In the Persian Gulf and the Northern Arabian Sea, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, ships like the USS Thomas Hudner, receive the launch order. The vertical launch system cells hiss open, and moments later, dozens of Tomahawk land attack missiles erupt from the decks. These missiles fly at subsonic speeds, hugging the terrain in what we call nap of the Earth flight to stay below the radar horizon. They are programmed to loiter and strike simultaneously. Their warheads slam into S-300 and S-400 radar sites and command bunkers. They degrade the integrated air defense system, effectively carving out safe corridors for the pilots who are minutes behind them. 30 minutes past H hour, while the Tomahawks are still impacting, the silver bullets of the U.S. Air Force are already deep inside hostile airspace. These are the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. To mitigate this, the U.S. has strategically positioned Allied air bases in Qatar, closer to Iran, and on Diego Garcia, a remote island in the Indian Ocean, roughly 2,300 miles away from Iranian territory. But why not station these multi-billion-dollar bombers in Qatar, which is much closer? The answer lies in Iran's formidable air defense capabilities. The country possesses Baver 373 ballistic missiles and the highly advanced Russian S-300 missile system, both capable of inflicting severe damage. Because Qatar is within striking range, Iranian forces could detect B-2 bombers taking off and potentially target them before they even leave the ground. To avoid this risk, the U.S. positions the bombers outside the reach of these missile systems. The longest-range Iranian missiles can travel about 1,800 miles or slightly more, but Diego Garcia sits well beyond that threshold. By redeploying several B-2 Spirit bombers from the 509th Bomb Wing to Diego Garcia, the U.S. ensures a secure launch point for operations across the Middle East, Africa, and the Indo-Pacific, a carefully calculated military strategy that enhances both survivability and operational reach. Across the Arabian Sea, F-18 Super Hornets and EA-18G Growler launch from the decks of U.S. carriers, their roles already defined. Some will clear a path through Iran's air defenses, while others will guard the tankers that keep the entire operation airborne. The KC-135 Stratotankers, laden with fuel, loiter in friendly airspace over Saudi Arabia, their crews aware that their unglamorous task could mean the difference between triumph and catastrophe. As the B-2s lift off, their jagged silhouettes blend into the night sky. Stealth is their shield, but distance is their enemy. Hours into the flight, they rendezvous with tankers flying over the canal, gulping fuel midair as F-18s circle protectively. The Growlers emit a cacophony of electronic noise masking the strike group's movements. Meanwhile, in underground command centers, U.S. analysts watch real-time feeds ready to redirect forces if Iran's radars flicker to life. Crossing into Iranian airspace is no easy task. The B-2s must climb to an extremely high altitude, their routes meticulously plotted to avoid known missile sites. Below the landscape, a vast stretch of mountains and deserts offers little cover, but the bombers' radar-absorbing skin helps them slip past enemy detection. As the targets come within range, the crews face a critical decision: launch standoff missiles from hundreds of miles away or descend to drop bunker-busting bombs directly onto fortified sites. There are different bunker buster bombs of different caliber, but what sets it apart from the rest is this GBU-57, which is typically delivered by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Due to the bomb's large size and weight, the aircraft can carry only 2 of these weapons in its bomb bay compartments. While it lacks thrusters, the weapon is equipped with 4 active lattice fins and a precision guidance system that enables it to glide accurately to its target using military-grade GPS. Constructed from a specially designed high-performance steel alloy, using its weight when falling under gravity to penetrate or dig itself up to 200 feet of underground soil or concrete. 1 hour past H-hour. With the air defense network fractured by Tomahawk cruise missiles, usually fired from destroyers hundreds of miles away, the path is now clear. Now comes the strategic sites like nuclear bunkers, which can be bombed by B-2's Spirit, the tip of the spear. Launching from bases in Jordan and the UAE, squadrons of F-15E Strike Eagles roar into the theater. These are the bomb trucks of the operation. Each F-15 is heavily laden with GDAMs and small-diameter bombs. Interestingly, it can carry up to 19 GDAMs or 28 small-diameter weapons. While the B-2s hit the deep bunkers, the F-15s hunt the mobile targets. Their ADSA radars scan the ground for ballistic missile launchers hiding in valleys. Working in pairs, they drop precision bombs on missile convoys, hangars, and secondary command nodes. Once they are Winchester, out of ammo, or low on fuel, they don't go home yet. They connect to this tanker common launch tube that fits into almost any aircraft's existing fuel hatch. They retreat to those tanker tracks established in Phase 1, taking on thousands of pounds of jet fuel in midair before turning back for a second sortie. 2 hours past H-hour. To sustain the pressure, the U.S. Navy's floating air bases enter the fight. Cruising in the Arabian Sea, a carrier strike group turns into the wind. Steam and electromagnetic catapults begin launching aircraft every 30 seconds. F-A-18 Super Hornets launch carrying anti-radiation missiles. Their job is DAD, destruction of enemy air defenses. They are hunting down any surviving radar operators foolish enough to turn their systems on. Meanwhile, F-35 Sea Lightning push forward to gather intelligence and strike high-threat targets that the older jets cannot reach. Orbiting far behind them are the E-2D Hawkeyes, the quarterbacks in the sky, managing the massive traffic of hundreds of U.S. jets. By sunrise, the first wave is over. The eyes of the enemy air defense have been blinded by Tomahawks. The heart of the nuclear program has been crushed by B-2s, and the limbs of the missile forces have been severed by F-15 and carrier aircraft. Either way, the mission doesn't end there. Iran's air defenses remain a formidable threat. MiG-29 and aging F-14 may not be cutting edge, but they can still be dangerous if they are lucky enough to intercept a B-2 Spirit. The stealth bombers have virtually no dogfighting capability, and Iranian ground controllers, struggling to cut through the electronic jamming, vector their fighters toward the incoming bombers. But the U.S. military has its own countermeasures. EA-18G Growler, flooding Iranian frequencies with static to disrupt communications and targeting systems. Confusion spreads, making it harder for enemy pilots to coordinate. If Iranian fighter jets manage to get close, the F-A-18s are waiting. Guided by airborne warning and control system aircraft orbiting safely offshore, they engage with long-range missiles, forcing Iranian pilots to either break off or face certain destruction. The B-2s will now be racing westward to avoid Iranian air defense system. Behind them, the sky churns with chaos. SAM sites reactivated in desperation unleash salvos that spiral harmlessly into empty air, duped by decoys. Growlers continue their electronic siege, while reserve F-18s surge forward to reinforce the retreat. Over Iraq, the bombers meet tankers again, gulping fuel as F-22 Raptors join the escort, their sensors scanning for threats the Iranians might yet muster. Let's take a look at how this works. Step 1. The bomb deployment platform. As previously mentioned, a B-2 stealth bomber flies at a very high altitude. When the aircraft reaches the designated location and the conditions are optimal, it releases the weapon. The bomb is designed for precision, and the deployment height plays a crucial role in its trajectory and effectiveness. Then Step 2 comes the targeting precision. The bomb is outfitted with advanced guidance technology, including GPS and inertial navigation systems, which are military-grade satellites. Then comes Step 3, that is adjusting the trajectory. The guidance information and data is then transmitted to the bomb's 4-lattice motors fins located at the rear. These fins can move and adjust in real time, allowing the bomb to correct its course as it descends under the force of gravity. These adjustments are essential because the weapon does not have thrusters to change its trajectory. Instead, it relies on the movement of these fins and a high-altitude drop to control its flight path. This is why the bomb must be deployed from a very high altitude so it has enough time and distance to adjust its trajectory accurately. Here comes the most difficult part, that is Step 4, impact and penetration. The bomb, known as the massive Ordnance Penetrator, weighs approximately 30,000 pounds, which is around 14,000 kilograms. When it reaches its target, it strikes with immense force, designed to penetrate deep into hardened structures, such as bunkers. The energy upon impact allows the bomb to bury itself over 200 feet into reinforced concrete, ensuring it delivers its payload precisely where it is intended for maximum effect. Finally, Step 5 involves the tricky part of arming the weapon. It was installed with 2 SDB fuses. Double fuses are required as a backup. The first is for G-sensing and the second is the time delay fuse. Why the redesign was necessary, it was to ensure that the bomb could strike facilities buried beneath significant layers of hardened material. For this reason, the fuses are placed at the rear of the bomb to prevent them from being damaged. Once the time delay or the G-sensing fuse reaches its destination, it can blow up, creating a mini earthquake that can bury bunkers and 20-story buildings inside them. We make original videos from scratch, so please do subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos.